Welcome back to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy. And today we're doing Lori Vallow Daybell Part 2.
Deuce, baby. Don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the description for the links of all of our podcast platforms, Cash App, and Buy Me a Coffee. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. As always, tell your friends.
Yes. If you haven't heard Part 1 of this, I did like a speed round style of information.
You guys got to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, we'll do a little recap, but you're still going to be missing pieces. So you're going to want to go back and listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Devil's in the details around here. Yeah.
Go back to Part 1. Listen to that shit show.
Yeah, because Lori and Chad have, where we're at, Lori and Chad have been arrested in connection of the death of both of their spouses now, along with Lori's youngest kids, 16-year-old Tylee and 7-year-old JJ. Her brother did die and one of her previous spouses died, but those are not considered to be foul play. So that's all the ones we're going to deal with. The disappearance of the kids had just prompted the exhumation of Tammy's body, and we had just learned that her cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation caused by another person. Right? So that's where we're at. Now, looking at the cell phone data,
you mentioned that she dismembered herself, right?
No, I did not mention that in this, but Tylee was dismembered and burned. JJ was suffocated and duct taped and, yes, left on Chad's property.
Yeah, so Tylee hurt him.
Right, that's what Lori says.
And then she hurt herself by, and then dismembered herself on top of all that. So
right, and then buried herself under the fire pit.
Yeah, and then buried both of them.
Right. Absolutely.
So anyway, all right, go ahead.
Now, cell phone data will always...
Caught up.
We're there.
No, there's a lot more in Part 1. You guys need to go back and listen to all of it.
There's a lot. Now, like I said, cell phone data is always going to get you. I don't know why this confuses people. But when they pulled the cell phone data, they were able to see that 4 hours before Tammy had been shot at in the driveway, remember with the paintball gun, that Alex, his phone was near her house. And it was also near the house 10 days later when Tammy actually died. Police also found an AR-15 at Alex's house that looked really close to what a paintball gun looks like. They also found out that he had done a search about how a Grendel round from an AR-15 would impact a Dodge Dakota. And what did the Daybells drive? A Dodge Dakota. So belief is that Alex was that masked man in the driveway, that the gun that he was using was an actual AR-15, just Tammy was not familiar with guns, and that the gun had actually jammed when he had tried to shoot her, so that's why she heard the click. So she told him he tried to shoot me with a paintball gun, but it must not have had any paintballs in it because it just clicked. No, the gun had jammed, and that's what happened. And then he came back 10 days later and finished the job. On the night of the attempted shooting, Lori's niece and a friend were with her, and they were doing a casting. That's the thing that they do when they try to get evil spirits out of your body. When she got a call, Lori told the person on the phone that they were an idiot, a moron, and stupid. She hung up and said, "Idiot can't do anything by himself."
Golly gee willikers. Wonder who she was talking to.
I don't know. Could it have been her brother? Okay. Cell phone data from Chad's phone shows that he texted Tammy, "I feel like I should burn all the limb debris by the fire pit before it got too soaked by coming storms. While I did so, I spotted a big raccoon along the fence. I hurried and got my gun, and he was still walking along. I got close enough that one shot did the trick. He is now in our pet cemetery. Fun times! ! Bro?
Don't question the fire. Good Lord. My phone's going off over here. I mean, don't question the fire going out, here.
Out there in the fire pit.
Yeah, or, going out here and, this is fresh mountain dirt,
Right. So he's giving her reasons as to why there's a fire out there, which we now know that Tylee was burned. And why there's a fresh mound of dirt over on the pet cemetery side where JJ's body was found.
Yeah. Don't question that.
Don't look over here.
Yeah, nothing to see.
Just a raccoon.
No big deal.
And I'm burning some limbs. Now, this was sent the day after Tylee was last seen alive. So, bro, his phone and Alex's phones were there the day after JJ was last seen too. So, every time one of these kids disappears, these two dudes are out there on the land where they find their bodies. So, you're looking real suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Tylee's DNA was found on a pickaxe and a shovel at Chad's house. Alex's fingerprints and Lori's hair were found on the plastic and duct tape with JJ's remains. Now, the prosecution has said that Alex had a brain injury from a car accident and his decision-making was stuck at a teenage level. So what they believe is that Lori groomed and manipulated him to commit these murders. So Lori and Chad are charged with conspiracy for all three because they believe Alex was the actual person who did it. But now Alex is gone. He's passed away from blood clots. Yeah, that was his. His was blood clots. So he's not there to defend himself.
Oh, I thought that was Charlie.
No, Charles was shot by Alex.
Oh, okay. See, I thought the last one you said Charles died of blood clots.
No, so Alex died of blood clots. Her other ex-husband died of a heart attack. And then Charles, her most recent husband before Chad, was shot by Alex in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're saying that they can only now charge them with conspiracy because they can't actually put the gun in their hands or prove that they were there, but they can prove Alex was there each time somebody died. You know, he's right there. Lori also got some charges added onto her for grand theft, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Charles got extra charges for insurance fraud because he collected that $430,000 in life insurance on Tammy. And Lori was tried first because she waived Chad waived his right to a speedy trial. So he was like, drag it out. I don't care. But Lori was like, no, I want my fast trial. So she came through first. And actually, Tammy's autopsy results came out while she was in court, while she was in trial. So perfect timing. She was found guilty across the board, and she was given multiple life sentences to be served consecutively. I know that we've talked about before, like sometimes judges don't have much to say at sentencing. This judge had a lot to say at sentencing, and he said it would only be fair that she get these consecutive life sentences so that she can feel it, each one. He wants her to know each one is for that specific person. So he drug it out because, I mean, even he was like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Chad, however, got the death penalty.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. So he's now sitting on death row. Lori would later say that, now this is in her sentencing hearing, she told the judge that she had been speaking with Jesus, Tylee, JJ, and her friend, Tammy, who were all happy and extremely busy in heaven. And when she said that, it made me think back to, remember when Colby got those Venmo payments and he messaged her thinking it was Tylee, and Tylee responded that she was safe but too busy to talk.
Mm-hmm. And
now here's Lori in her closing or in her sentencing saying that the kids are all extremely busy in heaven.
Yeah.
So she said, quote, Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case.
Oh, whatever.
Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects of medications happen. End quote.
Dismemberment don't just happen.
Right. Asphyxiation or duct taping a 7-year-old does not just happen.
Fuck.
Yes. And this all seems to be happening all around her.
Oh, yeah. All around her.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See what I mean? Everybody around her that wrongs her, that ticks her off or doesn't follow her way, somehow ends up gone.
Whatever 142,000 followed her, you better watch your back.
144. Yeah, she's your leader.
144, whatever.
There's a common denominator, and she's a real piece of work. So she's just finished her trial. So that trial was a couple years ago, and now she's just finished her trial for the conspiracy to commit murder in Charles's death. So that's the one I've been watching the last few weeks. And this time she decided to represent herself.
Oh my gosh. Of course she did.
Yeah. And I have to say, she wasn't the worst that I've ever seen. I've seen worse lawyers, I think.
Who was the other one that did it?
Daryl Brooks did it. We haven't covered him yet, but he was the sovereign citizen that...
No, who's the one that we did that tried to... No, never mind. It was, never mind. We're not even going to say the name.
Okay.
Go on.
She did ask a couple of good questions. So that's why I'm saying she wasn't the worst, because I guess when you represent yourself, you have lawyers by your side that advise you. They are your advisory counsel. And so they're telling her, you need to ask this, you need to ask them about that. So they're sitting there leading her, but they can't get up and do it for her. Once she's up there, she's on her own. But man, she really could have used an actual lawyer to defend herself. Her and Chad had apparently been telling people that Charles had been possessed by that dark spirit named Ned Schneider. Remember, of all the possible names, they picked the name of an accountant. So I'll never understand that. Now, her and her people, we'll call it her cult. It's her cult. Her and her cult had tried to hold castings where they tried to pray the spirit out of Charles, but it didn't work. He became a zombie. And once you become a zombie, we know from the first one, there's no turning back. The only way to get rid of a zombie is to kill them. Now, she had texts come into trial where she was talking to Alex about how they would be like Nephi. So the story of Nephi is in the Book of Mormon. And long story short, he was told by God to get some gold plates from King Laban. And he told him to get them by any means necessary, even if he had to kill him. So Nephi happened upon Laban drunk, passed out in the street, and decapitated him with his own sword.
Ruthless.
Yeah. And then it says that he impersonated Laban to get the plates. Now, Lori made a big deal in court because the detective that was talking about these texts was not a Mormon. So he Googled Nephi and he talked to a couple of people from the Mormon church or the LDS church about the story of Nephi. And this is the story he was told every single time. And I've told you this story like that because that's what I saw when I Googled it. But there are apparently several stories of Nephi in the Book of Mormon. So she was telling them, well, he could have been talking about any of those stories. I could have been talking. Did you ask me? Did you ask him what we were talking about? And the detective's like, no, I'm not going to take your word for it. No, I didn't ask you. So she's like, it could have been any of those stories. So she's trying to say that this had nothing to do with the fact that she's drawing the line between her and Nephi where God is telling them to kill people and they do it. But she's trying to sever that and it's not working. Now, it came out that 13 days before Charles's death, he emailed Tammy Daybell that Chad and Lori were having an affair. They know that email was opened, it was read, and it was deleted. And then Charles's email address was blocked from Tammy's computer. So the belief is that Chad had actually intercepted that email and deleted it before she got a chance to see it. So a couple of days later, Charles told Lori that he was going to talk to Tammy in person. So I'm wondering if maybe he had suspected that Chad had done that too. So he was going to go to her in person, face to face, right? So let's do a timeline of Charles. He flew to Arizona on July 10th. We know that. But he had recently sent Lori threatening text messages, according to her. So she had told him that he could not stay at the house that he was paying for. He had to get a hotel, and so he did. Now, he had flown in Lori's other brother with him. So that's Adam Cox. He came from a different location, but they both flew in on the same day. Now, Alex had told Adam that he could stay at his house when he came into town. But all of a sudden, when the plane landed, Alex stopped answering his phone. And so they thought that was very weird, right? Like, you said I could come stay with you. Now I can't, blah, blah, blah. And Charles and Adam, the reason they even came in together was because Lori had convinced Alex that he was a reincarnated warrior of God who was put on earth to protect her. And the boys, Adam and Charles, were like, she needs an intervention. So they're trying to plan an intervention because she's going way off the deep end. And now she's pulling everybody else with her. Mm-hmm. So that's why they were both coming in together. Now, JJ's school opens at 8:25 in the morning. But Charles got to their house at 7:35, so almost an hour early. When he gets there, he texted Adam, telling him that Alex's truck is there in the driveway. And Adam said, they're planning something. To which Charles replied, absolutely.
They probably didn't suspect that, what was really about to happen.
No, I bet they did not suspect that they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
But they knew something was up. They were super suspicious because, like I said, with the whole ignoring him thing, it was weird.
Yeah.
So Charles gets there, and since, like I said, he's almost an hour early, Lori told him to take JJ to Burger King for breakfast. So Charles put JJ in the rental car, goes back into the house to get his phone. And Lori said this is his MO, that when he comes over, he always leaves something behind to have a reason to come back in, right? Like he doesn't want to leave. But she admits that she took his phone and she wouldn't give it back. She was never asked why, and she never said why. But this is like the burning question in this case, because this is what started the whole thing. She asked him about texts on his phone, texts with Adam.
Yeah.
So that means that while he was putting JJ in the car, she went through his phone, because that's the only way she would have known that he had been texting Adam, right? She knew what she was doing. And she never said that's when she found out. Nobody ever asked her how she knew that Charles was texting Alex, and she won't talk. So whatever. She'll talk about everything else. So she went through his phone while he was putting in the car. He comes back in. She's like, what about those texts? Can we talk about those texts? And he's just telling her, give me my phone. She takes off with it. And so he goes after her, of course. As she's going through the house, he's trying to lunge and get it, and she's still doing her thing. So he starts raising his voice and yelling. Now, this is what she says woke up Tylee and Alex, and that's what started the whole fight with the baseball bat. And then, of course, Tylee went outside, and Lori kept saying she heard the shot. And so then she went outside and left. She says with JJ's autism, he craves routine. So that's why she went ahead and took him to Burger King and got him his chicken fries and Sprite, went to Walgreens to get the flip-flops, and then dropped JJ off at school before she went back home. Now, like I said, when she got to the house, police were already there. And the police were about to do the death notification right there at the scene when Lori said she already knew she was there. So that's when they found out that she didn't just happen upon this gruesome scene. She had been there that morning when the shooting happened.
Yeah, I mean, she set him up.
Now, at the time, they didn't know that, though.
Mm-hmm.
So they took Tylee.
I mean, you can kind of put it all together.
We can now, yeah. Yeah. But at the time, they're like, oh, no, here she is coming home from taking her kid to school, and she's about to find out her brother killed her husband.
Yeah.
But Lori's like, I already know.
Yeah, and that's whenever I would have been like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Automatically, I've been like, hold up.
They did. They were kind of,
why the hell did you leave?
Where you been? Yeah.
Why did you leave a crime scene?
Yes. So that's why they all had to be taken down to the station. They took Tylee, Alex, and Lori, and they put them in separate rooms, of course.
Well, at least they did that.
At least. Now, the jurors got to see the interview of Lori and body cam footage of her at the scene. Yeah. Words used to describe her demeanor by the state and the officers that were there was nonchalant and unaffected.
Of course.
She's laughing. She's joking.
Didn't have a care in the world.
She's telling them that they're like, how long have you lived here? And she's like, 3 weeks. So it's kind of like, hi, neighbors. What? No, this is literally at the scene. She never asks about Charles. She never asks about Alex. Now, she knows Alex was hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat. Why is she not like, where's my brother? Is my brother okay? Where's my husband? I heard a shot. Who shot who? What happened? Like, she's not asking any questions.
She don't care.
She knows. She already knows the answer. My voice got real high. My bad. Lori tries to keep, when she has these detectives on the stand and she's cross-examining them, she's trying to ask them all the time, like, were the police calm? Were the firefighters calm? I was calm. Wouldn't it have stood out more if I was hysterical? And then the prosecutor would get back up and ask the detective, was your husband just shot by your brother in your house? No? Okay, maybe that's why you were calm. But she shouldn't have been calm. So, like, these people see this every day. She does not. Lori does not. But anyways, it just leads to it. Lori let it go after a while. She finally stopped asking. They do the interviews. Nobody gets arrested. They take them back to the scene because they had taken them in a van. They take them back to the scene. And since all their cars are inside the crime scene tape, the police tell them to take Charles's rental car and then just come back after they pick up JJ from school. Now, when they come back, police ask if they know where Charles's phone is. And Tylee gets it out of the car, I think it was in the cup holder, and hands it to them. So they've had the phone this whole time. And Lori gives them the PIN number to unlock it. What?
Yeah.
What?
So they had it the whole time.
They had it the whole time. And Lori points out that they didn't ask for it. She wasn't trying to be deceptive about having it. They just never asked. So when you talk about the investigation, this is a big moment where people are like, she said she took his phone. She said she wouldn't give it back. You never asked her why. And then you never asked her if she still had it. So she literally had the phone all day to do whatever she wanted to with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she points out, or no, she doesn't point that. Another messed up thing about this day was that when police finished up at the crime scene and left the house and released the house back to Lori, later on, the neighbors reported that there was a very loud pool party going on at the house.
Figures.
Yes. Yes. We find out from Kay, which is Charles' sister, when she gets up on the stand, it was the next day that Lori texted one of Charles' son and tells him, your dad's dead. That's how she told his family. So he then calls Kay. And Kay's like, I don't know nothing about it. I'm in a nail salon. I can't do anything. So she calls her husband, Larry, who Googles it and sees, yes, Charles has been shot by his brother-in-law. That's how it's being reported online. And that's how they find out Charles died. So as police start tracking down Lori's version of events and they look at Charles's phone data, they realize that it's looking very suspicious. Charles's phone, now this, mind you, it takes a long time to do this, to get cell phone data, to do the thing, whatever. Charles's phone got to Lori's house at 7:35. We know that.
Yeah.
The phone then left at 7:49. So that's when Lori left to take JJ to school. Alex called Lori at 7:52. And then he called again, at 7:54. She went through the Burger King drive-thru, and you can see her on surveillance. They showed it in court. Then Alex called Lori again at 8:06 on her other phone because they like to use burner phones. Shocked. At 8:19, Lori is at Walgreens, so we see that on surveillance footage where she's buying the flip-flops. But so is Charles's phone. So it's showing everywhere that Lori is, Charles's phone is. So if they hadn't got it back from her, they would know that she had it that whole time. Now, none of the... At 8:33, Charles's phone is at JJ's school. And then Alex called 911 at 8:36. Lori gets back to the house and Charles is pronounced dead at 8:48.
So Lori never called 911.
Lori never called 911. And she was there for that first shot. Remember, she left at 7:49. So that means that there was a 47-minute gap before Alex called 911. What is happening? And police also learned that one of those texts that Adam sent Charles that morning wasn't read until 2:13 p.m.
When Lori had his phone.
Yep. It was Lori and Alex who read that text. So before we get into the rest of it, I think this is a good spot for us to take a moment to hear from today's sponsor.
Did you hear what happened last night at the laundromat?
No, what?
Some clothespins held up a couple of shirts.
Oh, God. That's a good one. Now, when it's cold outside, do you like to pull out a pair of warm sweatpants straight from the dryer and put them on?
Yeah, it's nice and cozy.
Wouldn't you rather do that at home and not in a laundromat?
Oh, God.
If you live in an apartment and need a washer and dryer that only you can use, get a pin.
You can go to My Laundry Solutions, the #1 choice for washers and dryer rental.
They're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Springfield, Joplin, and Kansas City, Missouri, Sherman, Dallas, Houston, and Lubbock, Texas. Their newest location is in Fort Worth. They have more locations opening in Texas in 2025 and 2026. No credit check, free service.
professional installation, and your account's available online, all for about $1 a day. Go to your leasing office, go to mylaundrysolutions.com, or call 800-535-4411.
Stop being taken to the cleaner and give them a call today. Go and check out My Laundry Solutions today.
Today.
Ding.
Oh, God. All right. So Alex and Lori have his phone. We know he has the phone. They're reading his texts. And then at 2:39 p.m., Alex's phone takes 3 pictures of Charles's phone showing Adam's flight information. So now they know that Charles is the one who flew Adam in. And there was a picture of a text from Adam to Charles where he's talking about maybe having a conversation with Lori and recording it so that he has some proof of her wild ideology to take to the church, right? So Lori would say that she didn't hear from the police about this case again until 2 years later. So I mentioned earlier, it takes weeks, months, to get this data and to know that something's not right. Why did it take them 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem. So it's widely believed that if the kid's case hadn't happened, that Charles's case would have stayed as a self-defense case forever.
Yep.
They would have never went back to it. They also played audio of phone calls that Lori had made to Charles's life insurance company. And she's calling to check on a $1 million life insurance policy for Charles. And she keeps calling him her husband. She actually does that through the whole trial, and it really ticks me off. It's my daughter and my husband, and it's just annoying. But she finds out that he had changed the beneficiary when she had ghosted him for those 58 days when he filed for divorce, but then took it back. Well, he had changed his beneficiary to his sister Kay, and he never told Lori that, and he left it that way. So they could tell her, you're not the beneficiary, but they wouldn't tell her who it was. So then her and Chad start texting back and forth, trying to figure out who it is, right? It's got to be Kay, right? He left nothing for JJ. And she texted Chad, I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him.
And there it is.
That's as close as a confession as you can get to most people.
Yep.
I'm just saying. So I had also said that Charles had been shot twice, remember?
Mm-hmm.
She says in her interview with police that she heard the shot. That's all she talks about. Like it's one shot. But he had been shot in the chest first, and he had blood on his left hand, so they believe he did put his hand over that wound.
Yeah.
The second, it was also a front to back, I'll mention that, and it was slightly downward with a 1-inch downward trajectory, so it was almost straight on. The second shot was just below the rib cage, which then exited his shoulder. And there was a shored wound, about said short. It's a shored wound, meaning that he had something hard against his back when the bullet tried to exit. So what they believe is that he was lying on the floor when Alex shot him the second time. So that kind of throws that self-defense right out the window.
Yep.
Sometimes they said elastic clothing like a bra or spandex can cause shored wounds. So Lori harps on the fact that Charles used to wear $200 bamboo workout shirts, but they don't believe that that would have caused the shored wound because he had also been wearing that shirt when he was shot through the chest, right? So then that wound would have also been a shored wound.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So there went that out the window too. This also showed that Alex was likely standing at Charles's feet when he was laying on the floor, and he shot for it to be able to go under the rib cage and then exit his shoulder with a 13-inch upward trajectory. There's also a lot that came out in this case that we can't get into because we're not trying to give you every detail. We'll be here forever. But she was her own lawyer. She was cross-examining people. She seemed to be very concerned with what people were saying about her. And it came out that Charles had been on a dating app for LDS and had went on a date with a woman named Nancy Joe the night before his murder. So when he flew into town, he actually met with Nancy for dinner. She knew that Charles had changed his beneficiary on his life insurance policy and was telling him that he should probably tell Lori that he changed it because she would maybe leave him alone after that. So when Lori cross-examines her, she asks, "Oh, did you spend your whole date talking about me?" And Nancy Jo's like, "Don't flatter yourself." No. It probably felt really good to say that. Lori was also very butthurt that her brother Adam didn't remember her green chili chicken enchiladas. And she did these are the questions I'm talking about that she asked that were actually beneficial. She asked both Adam and Kay if they had ever saw or heard her conspire to kill Charles. Adam just said no. But when she asked Kay, Kay said, "Nope, but I saw a lot of evidence that did."
Nice.
Right? That was one of like the top things in the trial.
But go back to the chicken enchiladas. I mean,
She was mad.
Were they memorable chicken enchiladas? Because I can't eat chicken enchiladas.
From the people who have had her chicken enchiladas, they have come out and said that they were very bland. There was nothing special about them.
So they're very forgetful.
So he probably wouldn't eat them.
Oh. So.
Yeah.
So they're not like world famous.
They are not. No. Nobody cares about them except Lori.
They're not signature.
They are not.
Well, I guess they are. If they're bland all the time, then they are kind of a signature
That's
enchilada.
the signature.
They're a chicken shit enchiladas.
They're like, "Is this chicken enchiladas?"
Yeah. What is this? It's like, it's a taste that I've never tasted before. It tastes like nothing. Anyway.
Now, she delayed sentencing. Oh, sorry. The jury did deliberate for just under 3 hours. I believe it was 2 hours and 58 minutes total deliberation time. But they did find her guilty. Now, the only sentence that she can get in Arizona is life. So, but they have to look at like mediating factors, aggravated factors. And so she stipulated to all of that. She's like, I think she didn't want Kay back up on that stand because they would have put Kay back up there to talk about it. And I think she didn't want that smoke. So I think she just stipulated to it so she could shut up and go home.
Don't want the smoke, bro.
Yeah. But she did end up delaying her sentencing because she has another trial in June, so in about a month, for the conspiracy to kill Brandon Boudreaux, her niece's ex-husband. So she said, we can just do the sentencing after that one. I don't know if she thinks that maybe something's going to come out in that one that would help her here, but it's definitely not. And they've already filed a motion to have all of the stuff that came out in this trial be allowed to come into Brandon's trial. So it's going to be another wild one. Jurors. So they did talk to the jurors. I mean, this thing is so huge. So as soon as they're coming out of the courthouse, people are telling them, Google her, because apparently they had found people who had never heard of this case. And so they were like, you need to Google her. You need to see what's going on. And then they started interviewing them. So they said that the text about getting rid of Ned, when she says it must have been Ned before we got rid of him, that was pretty much a slam dunk for this case. And 2 jurors were holding out when they got back to deliberate. But once they started going back over the evidence and realized what was in front of them, they were easily swayed right back to the guilty side. So the Ned and Nephi texts were also very big contributors to her being found guilty. And she has already done an interview with True Crime Arizona. She said that she had already seen her whole life when she was in heaven. So she knew what was going to happen in her life here on earth. Well, then why did she turn around and say that she was surprised when she got the discovery in her case and found out that Charles had been dating women off of a dating app? You know what I mean? Like, her own stuff don't make sense. But her family and them have said that she told them that Charles was cheating on her before he died. So she definitely already knew. And so that's still just another lie. She did not testify on her own behalf. She didn't call any witnesses because she said the judicial system is not set up for you to be able to put on a defense. I also was bothered that in her opening statement, she said the evidence will show about 1 million times, but she said her evidence would show that Charles was left-handed. He was a semi-pro baseball player back in his day, And he did everything left-handed except bat. He would bat right-handed. So this is supposed to show that the bat was on the right side. It was supposed to be on that side, and it was on that side, but it was not. The bat was actually on the right-hand side, and Kay testified he batted left-handed. So if he was swinging that bat when he was shot, it would have fell to his left, right? But it was found on the right side of him. So they're like, they planted it there. They were like, oh, he was chasing me with a bat. That's why it's right there. So she was trying to disprove that, but then she still did not call. She was like, I'm going to call his old coach who's going to testify to this in her opening statement. And then she never did. So you didn't put up any defense. She's like, it's not set up for you to be able to defend yourself. Well, you had the chance and you could have testified, but you didn't. So that's your bad.
Well, they say if you can't afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you.
Yeah, she had a lawyer in her last case with the kids. She had lawyers.
So.
And she did say that she wanted to bring up why Tylee wasn't there to testify, because that's another thing the jury supposedly didn't know, right? If you don't know about this case, then you don't know that these kids are no longer with us. But they kept talking about Tylee. And the jury is over there going, okay, so Tylee's going to probably testify, and she never did. And they all said, we wondered where Tylee was. So they Googled her. So now they all know that everyone in that house that day, except Lori, is dead. So they're probably pretty happy that they got this one right. Yeah. They didn't know that she was already in prison. They didn't know that she's already serving multiple life sentences and that she conspired to kill the kids and Tammy. Like, they didn't know none of that. Supposedly.
And if that's true.
If it's true.
If that's true, I bet, they're glad that there was enough evidence to convict her here. Right
on this one.
You know what I mean?
If they would have said not guilty and then found out all this other shit, they would have been like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Because people can get in their feelings. They have compassion for people. Now, she said in this interview with True Crime Arizona that she has been wrongfully convicted of all of these charges. Another thing she said in her closing is that her and Adam were estranged. Like, why would they bring up my estranged brother to testify? And then in the interview, it was just a couple weeks after her trial, she was asked, are you guys still estranged? Would you consider yourself estranged now? And she said, not really necessarily. Well, are you estranged or not? Because you told the jury you were. She said she wasn't having an affair with Chad at the time that Charles died. That he was just her best friend.
Sure.
That she married a couple months later.
Sure.
She said that the state takes evidence in a case and then makes up a story to fit their narrative.
Of course they do. Absolutely. You're right.
But nobody knows what happened that day but her. And why is that, Lori? Could it be because everybody else died? Come on.
Exactly.
They asked her about the texts about Nephi, like about being like Nephi. And she said that they were all taken out of context, that those texts were not talking about anything that was happening here on earth.
And here we go.
They were talking about the spirit world. She believes that Adam and Charles were not planning an intervention like they said they were. She thinks that they had other plans completely. And when asked why it took so long to call 911, she said that was on Alex. And he's not here to ask about that.
That was on Alex. That wasn't my job.
Right. She said, I got my kids to safety. That's what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got my kids safe. But by God, I didn't use my cell phone to call 911 to tell them, hey, what happened in my house?
Exactly. Or my brother could be in danger.
Yeah. Or my brother, I think he might be hurt.
Yep. No, she didn't care.
Whatever.
And I also didn't mention that she had said that Alex was at her house that day for her protection. Remember, because he's reincarnated warrior that's put here to protect her. Because Charles was coming over, and so she had everybody convinced that Charles was threatening her leading up to this and all that. So he was coming over and brought his gun with him to protect her, along with 2 clips. So let's not forget that. But if that's the case, why was he asleep when Charles got there? Like, if you're there to protect somebody, shouldn't you be awake so that you can protect them? Because
it's all BS and they ambushed him.
Yes. That is widely believed in this case, that is not what happened in this house, that they called him there for a purpose and they did that there was he didn't hit Alex with a bat. He didn't do none of that. Most people believe that. But money was also a big motivator in this case, right? Same with Tammy and Brandon. So she thought she was getting $1 million in Charles's life insurance. And they even found in the investigation that she had went through Charles's laptop and found that change of beneficiary form after he died, of course. And then she took pictures of it and sent them to Chad. So they were literally having conversations about his life insurance policy. Plus, if you remember, in the Idaho case for the kids, she had an extra charge for grand theft. And I said we'd talk about it later. So Tylee's dad had died, right? So she was getting $1,859 a month from Social Security for survivor benefits, which I'm sure went to Lori. So after Charles died, Lori signed JJ up so that he could start getting $1,951 a month. But she told them that she and Charles were living together at the time of his death. And remember, he had stopped the divorce proceeding, so they were still married. So then she also got $1,951 a month because her spouse died. Now, when she texted Chad about Charles changing that beneficiary, she said not to worry because she would still be getting about $4,000 a month from Social Security. Now, her portion would have stopped when she married Chad, right? But Social Security was never notified that she got married. Now, she tried to say that she told the Social Security office in Hawaii when they got married, but the Social Security guy testified that if she would have told them that, they would have put it in the system and he would be able to see it when he did the fraud investigation on it, and it was not in their system.
She was collecting those checks.
She 100% was collecting those checks, so she was committing fraud. So that's why she got the grand theft charges. Now, more is going to come out in the next trial, like we said, in the attempt for Brandon's life. We already know a lot in that case, including things like Alex's phone had searched for directions to Brandon's house. And then he was in the same area of the house hours before the shooting. We also know Lori had searched the internet that day for a shooting in Gilbert, Arizona. There's also a video of Chad and Lori at their storage locker putting a spare tire into it before the shooting, and then taking it out after the shooting. So if you remember, Tylee's Jeep was used in that shooting, and Brandon told police that the back spare tire was missing. So now we know where it was. It was in storage. So I think we're looking at yet another guilty verdict in that case too.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So we'll definitely update this after Brandon's trial if anything new comes out or when she's found guilty, because that's probably what's going to happen. But that's all on this one.
Well, so there's more.
There's another trial that starts in June.
There's another trial. Well, I mean, I don't know. You see, when you try to play God.
And a lot of people have asked, why are they even doing this? Because she's already serving so many consecutive life sentences already that there's really no point. But they do these because, one, the families of the victims deserve justice.
Yeah.
And two, if anything happens and say miraculously one of her cases gets overturned or something like that and she gets her sentence vacated, these others will still be in place. So you want to definitely keep going and keep getting them for whatever you can, just for that kind of insurance policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well,
yeah, it's a wild one.
That's what happens
when you fuck around and find out.
That's what I was just about to say.
I knew it.
I mean, it's so
got him.
It's so all over the damn place with this one.
It's everywhere. There's so much information. We could have done a whole month on just this case. So I had to tell everything really fast. Sorry.
Yeah. So don't come at us with oh, you missed this, whatever. I mean, come on. We got the majority of the base.
Yeah. You got to hit the highlights.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what this is. If you want more coverage on it, you will not be hard pressed to find it. I can tell you right now. It's been everywhere.
Yeah.
And it might just be my algorithm because I've been watching the trial, but I'm just saying. So if
she's getting a lot of cat videos and too. So
that's my algorithm. Cooking stuff and cats. Yeah. That's it.
And trials.
Yeah. And true crime.
Yeah. But anyway.
You can message us on Facebook if you have any case suggestions or send them to dna.truecrime@gmail.com. If you like our content, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We need you.
Yep. And as always, don't forget to tell your friends.
Don't forget to tell them. If you like it, they'll like it.
Because more than anything, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for more subscribers.
Yep.
So if you guys got time, tell your friends, tell them to come on over and
Got a
like,
minute?
share, subscribe. Till next time.
Bye.